I'm going to sit down and I'm going to talk. And the whole point of this video is just to talk out what I'm really thinking so I can listen to it, so I can watch myself talk about things. I want to kind of get into some stuff. One of the things that I had learned some time ago when I used to do this stuff on, when I used to make cassettes and I talked about things, is to talk openly about things. I think that one of the big problems in this world is people don't think out. I mean, if you actually think about it, I mean, this is a very simple kind of way of looking at it. A lot of people don't really think out what it is that they believe or where they stand on something. What happens is people just literally do not think. They just don't think. They kind of become like robots. They just are like a thing that's programmed. You're like a computer. Somebody tells you what to think, what to feel, what to believe, how to respond. And I've been around people who, I mean, they cannot function if they don't have a big boss to tell them what to do. Or if they don't have, and it doesn't have to be a boss like a work boss, but it's like there are people who just do not have an independent mind. They don't have an independent mind. They are slaves in the way that I think about that word. You know, I was thinking about, we can think about the classical ideal of a slave, but I also think about the word slave when it's used in computer talk. For a person who's a computer expert, people who know about that stuff. You know, you have two hard drives hooked up together. You have one called a master and one called slave. And the master, the slave one, just like in regular slavery, the slave can't do anything on its own. It has to take commands and orders from the master. The master is up here and the slave is down here. When the master says something, the slave can do it. But if the master doesn't say it, the slave can't do it. It's kind of like Simon Says. You know, Simon says do this. Simon says do that. You know. And yeah, you can do it only if Simon says, but if you do it without Simon saying it, then you're in trouble. It's the same thing with people. There are people who cannot function without someone telling them what to do. If you get around people like that, those are the type of people who, those are the type of people who will wind up in a cult. Those are the type of people who will wind up like the Jonestown people. Whatever the cult leader tells you to do, you do it, and you don't question it. If he tells you to commit suicide, you do it. He tells you to go and do an act of terrorism, you do it. You do it. It's not just in religion, it's in so many areas. I see that a lot, you know, in jobs that I've worked at, where there are people who, you know, in a job, of course you have to do what the boss tells you to do, but you can still be an independent-minded person. You do have a mind of your own. You know you have to do your work. Yeah, you can think about that in practical terms. But, you know, there are people, like in other jobs I worked in, where when the boss isn't there, they don't know what to do. They're completely lost. And I've always been the type of person who could always find something to do. You know, people would sit around and they would say, oh, well, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do. And I think there's plenty to do. There's a lot of things we can do around here that need to be done. Let's do that stuff. You know, and if I started telling people to do that, then all of a sudden I become the leader and they start slavishly following me. It's like, it's always a weird feeling. I hate being in that position because I don't want to be a master and I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to be the type of person who can't, you know, I don't want to be the type of person who can't function if I don't have a master. And I don't want to be a person who is a master telling people what to do. Like, it's like dealing with people who are even less than children. You know, they just cannot, they absolutely cannot function unless I tell them what to do. If I had children, I would like to teach them to be independent thinkers. I think that's the most important thing you can do in life, is to become an independent thinker. Somebody who thinks independent of a master telling you what to do. You know, that's important. I think that is like the most important thing.